What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and welcome to episode number 4 of our Pokemon Profile series, a guide to competitive Pokemon in 5 minutes or less. In this series, I'm going to give you a detailed look at the Pokemon we're covering in just 5 minutes. So if you enjoy the series, make sure to leave a like, and of course subscribe to the channel, and check the description for my Twitter and Discord server links. And without further ado, let's start the timer. Today we are covering Tapu Bulu. Beginning with Tapu Bulu's stats, it's pretty interesting at Grass and Fairy, sharing the typing with a few others, namely Shiinotic and Whimsicott. Being 4 times weak to poison though really does hurt it. It is the only of the Tapus that actually has a 4 times weakness, which is very unfortunate, but it is also extremely bulky, which is very nice to have. Having the Fairy typing is really useful, of course being immune to dragons. Grass types can be leech seeded, which is really nice as well, but overall, its typing isn't the greatest in terms of what you want on a Pokemon. Fairy typing is so good, but Grass type really isn't that great, so pairing them together kind of makes it just meh. And without access to a reliable physical fairy move, which we'll cover later, this Pokemon does kind of struggle just a little bit. So let's start off with its stats. Anyways, its HP stat at base 70 is okay. It's just like the rest of the Tapus. Having 130 attack is really nice to have, and of course 115 defense makes this thing a pretty bulky tank. And of course when you pair it with 95 special defense, you can also be a really effective Assault Vest user. This Pokemon is actually one of the best Assault Vest users. If I had to make a list, it would definitely be on the short list of making it, just because it has access to the Grassy Surge, and having Grassy Surge will give you constant recovery whenever Tapu Bulu comes in, making sure that you get an extra 6% every single turn that you're grounded. Now, Tapu Bulu's speed, it leaves a little bit to be desired at base 75. Obviously, if it was faster, let's say at base 95, this thing would be really powerful, because firing off base 130 attack wood hammers in terrain is just nothing to laugh at, but I understand why Game Freak couldn't go that route. Looking at its move pool, Tapu Bulu gets a ton of amazing physical moves, and namely the big ones are Horn Leech and Wood Hammer. Those two are your main stabs, and in Grassy Terrain rather, you actually increase the power of those moves, which just makes them hit so much harder, and you really don't understand how much harder they hit in terrain. There are very few Pokemon that want to switch in on adamant, banded, terrain boosted wood hammers from a Tapu Bulu. It's pretty much like Pokemon that 4 times resisted, and that's pretty much it. So you gotta be very careful with the way you play around this Pokemon. Looking at the rest of its moves though, you do have access to a couple fighting type moves in Superpower and Brick Break. You also have access to Mega Horn, which is a very nice move to deal with potential psychic types or dark types that want to come in on you. You have access to both Rock Slide, Stone Edge, and access to actually Rock Tomb, and of course Smart Strike to deal with other fairy types as well. You have Zen Headbutt to deal with fighting types that might want to come in on you, and you might notice the one thing I'm not saying is it doesn't get Play Rough, and that's really unfortunate. It does get access to Dazzling Gleam, but with only base 85 special attack compared to the 130 attack, you really don't want to have to run Dazzling Gleam unless your opponent has a 4 times weakness to Fairy, which there are many Pokemon that actually do have that 4 times weakness. Overall though, Tapu Bulu does have a ton of awesome coverage options, and when you pair that with access to Bulk Up and Swords Dance, this thing, there's nothing that wants to switch on this thing and take hits comfortably, just because of its monstrous stats. And of course pairing that with the Grassy Surge to recover your HP just makes this thing so much more of a threat. Tapu Bulu can pretty much run any item it wants to, and I'm confident in saying that it can do that, just because of the diversity it has in its move pool and its stat distributions. Having access to Leech Seed also is very nice to have, and of course Nature's Madness allows it to be a very good supporting Pokemon. Obviously, you're an insane wall breaker. You also have good terrain recovery for your team, and of course you limit ground types because of your terrain. Now obviously terrain does account for 2 of these options, but Tapu Bulu just has so many that I couldn't think of the best 3 to put on this, so I felt like it would be good to have just these ones here, because obviously it's a great Seb Sweeper, and it's a great support Pokemon too. Now looking at Pokemon that I would pair this with, definitely I would pair this with a Heatran or a Toxapex. And I know that's standard, I know it's so obvious and everyone knows about that, but basically Heatran needs, well, at this point, it's really useful to have access to a Tapu Bulu's terrain, because you are weakening one of its main threats, which is Earthquake or even Bulldoze. So you gotta be very careful with what you pair it with, but definitely I think that Heatran is a great pair. Obviously Toxapex as well, weakening those ground type moves. Both those Pokemon just don't want to die, and they really appreciate the recovery that Tapu Bulu provides. So basically any Pokemon that appreciates the recovery is really nice to have. Any Pokemon that is weak to ground types is really nice to have as well. And of course Pokemon that can heal up Tapu Bulu or potentially prevent a burn, something like a good Heal Beller or Aromatherapy user, is really nice to have as well. Now obviously I do think you need another breaker. You can't just have Tapu Bulu as your only breaker, so make sure you pair this thing with Pokemon that can be really good both offensively and especially offensively. Now where would I draft this Pokemon? I definitely think this Pokemon isn't as strong as Tapu Fini, so I definitely wouldn't draft it around the same area, but I would draft it slightly before just because of what it can do. But obviously there are a ton of great Pokemon, and this Pokemon does fit a very niche role If you do want it, you should pick it up around the second round. If you don't want it and it just happens to fall in your lap, let's say the people you're drafting with don't really appreciate Tapu Bulu or don't really want to use it, then you can honestly pick it up kind of like round 5-ish, just because it provides so much value around then, and if you're leaving it later, then someone's going to take it just because of how good it actually is. Obviously, it does have the complements of being paired with a potential Hawlucha or potential other Unburdened Mon, like a Slurpuff. It's really good in that sense, but Tapu Bulu just provides so much for a team outside of that, and obviously, I think that Tapu Bulu is a really good Pokemon. I just wish it got that physical fairy move that would make it take that extra leap and make it really a tier 1 type of Pokemon that I definitely think is out there. Obviously, it is found in most tier 1 drafts. At this point, it's the only Tapu that I actually haven't used, and I don't really plan to use it as long as it is found in tier 1. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this Pokemon profile on Tapu Bulu. If you did, make sure to smash the like button and of course subscribe to the channel for more amazing Pokemon content, because I upload tons of Pokemon videos every week. Also, I want to give a huge thank you to Roshan once again for the beautiful graphics work. He will be mentioned every single video. His Twitter is in the description, so make sure to go and check him out. If you're looking for work done, I highly recommend him. Now, don't forget to make sure to let me know your thoughts on Tapu Bulu in the comments section below, and let me know which Pokemon you want to see next. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time.